4.3 billion people live across this vast continent called Asia, and we are telling their stories. On this edition, Conflict. Rangers in Thailand on the hunt for poachers and smugglers.
Actually, it could be very close.
The danger of playing protector of the forests. In Myanmar, the war is over, but the casualties grow. Weapons in the ground that in a second forever changed these people's lives. And in the Middle East,
I'm an Israeli.
It's not easy to be a Palestinian.
two fathers see their worst nightmares come true.
This is the place. 5 people died here.
It was one shot.
And come together to speak out for peace.
I'm Tony Cheng, and this is Assignment Asia. Welcome to the program. The forests of northeastern Thailand are in danger. 50 years of illegal hunting has pushed many exotic species to the brink of extinction. More recently, illegal wood poaching has caused mass deforestation. With millions of dollars at stake, the hunters and poachers are using violence to force anyone out of the forests who challenges them. But one group of rangers has decided to take them on. I went on patrol with them in Pangsida National Park.
It's the first day of training. Many are recent recruits to the job. Some have previous military experience, but most are just local lads. Today it's weapons training, the first time forest rangers have done this. The recruits themselves look a little nervous. They're clearly not familiar with these combat weapons, but they have a steely determination to learn. It's a lesson that could save their lives. Ranger Tawisak Chomyong did know how to handle a weapon, but it didn't help. The 33-year-old former soldier was shot and killed when his patrol met a group of illegal loggers. For his colleagues, it was a harsh reminder that the enemy they faced was prepared to do anything to get to the rosewood. Back at the ranger base, the park chief shows me the bloodstains on the plank they used to carry Tawisak home. The storeroom is filled to the roof with timber seized from the poachers, the chainsaws used to cut the planks, and the wheeled transporters used to smuggle it out. When you buy rosewood furniture, says the chief, his men are paying the price in blood.
มันจะเป็นเรื่องที่ทำให้ประเทศต้นทางที่เป็นแหล่งผลิตไม้เนี่ยเป็นแหล่งเจ้าของไม้นะครับเกิดความยากลำบากขอให้เขาเข้าใจว่าเขากำลังบริโภคทรัพยากรที่ท่ามกลางสายเลือดและน้ำตาของผู้ดูแลทรัพยากรเหล่านี้อยู่นะครับ
The poachers set up camps inside the nature reserve. They're often there for weeks. And although they feel secure in the huge forest, this is when they're most vulnerable. Catching them unprepared is the best way to remove the threat to the rosewood and to the rangers themselves. The new combat training has been made possible through funding from organizations like the Freeland Foundation. Freeland's Tim Redford told me the rosewood trade was being driven by the huge prices the wood can command.
The sheer value of the product here is so high now that the poachers are willing to take any risk to go and get it. I mean, anecdotal reports that we've heard, it's up to $50,000 a cubic meter in China. And I mean, for that price, you take any risk at all.
And the situation has got so bad, they fear that all of Thailand's rosewood could be gone in just 10 years. The jungle seems a calm and peaceful place, but hiding under the canopy are desperate smugglers willing to kill, and the rangers are getting ready to hunt them down. Training can only teach you so much, and the rangers are getting ready to head out on patrol. Local intelligence has told them several groups of loggers are already in the forest, and they think they know where. It's going to be a baptism of fire for the new recruits, who are starting to look nervous. Early the next morning, and it's time to put the nerves aside. Several teams of rangers are heading into the forest. This is definitely not a drill, and the rangers are locked and loaded. Some of the new recruits look apprehensive. This is going to be a big test. and the man in charge of the operation has heard things could get nasty.
ครับคือเราก็จะคาดหวังว่าเรื่องของการกระบวนการลักลอบตัดไม้พยุงซึ่งตอนนี้ก็ค่อนข้างจะมีปัญหาหนักแล้วก็มันสืบเนื่องจากคณะกรรมการมรดกโลกมีข้อห่วงใยในเรื่องของปัญหาเรื่องการ
The jungle is a harsh and unwelcoming environment. The rangers know that danger lurks everywhere, both natural and man-made. We set off to the areas where they think the poachers are. There are no paths. We walk along animal trails. Suddenly, something at the front of the trail. The rangers rush forward. It's not a logger, but something far more elusive. Just ahead of us on the trail was a tiger, once common here. The loggers have chased them away or killed them. A tiger corpse is also a valuable commodity.
ก็ไม่บ่อยนะครับไม่บ่อยแต่ก็เห็นร่องรอยก็พอเห็นบ้างที่จริงแล้วพวกนี้มันก็เหลืออยู่น้อยมากแล้วเราก็ทำการสำรวจเรื่องเสือนี่เยอะพอสมควรเพื่อที่อยากจะทราบว่าพื้นที่ที่มันอยู่อาศัยจริงๆนั้นเป็นยังไง
Well, the rangers have struck camp for the night. We're only about 6 kilometers from their base camp, but that was 6 hours walk. It's very dense jungle around here, very hard to get through, and it's exhausting work. They say they haven't seen much evidence of logging, just old camps from several years ago. But they say tomorrow, when we get further in, they'll see much more evidence. They know there are loggers working there.
The next morning at first light, we move on. The rangers are alert and tense now. We're moving into the logging areas. Soon we come across fresh tracks. The wheeled transporters used to take the logs out. These are just a few days old, and we decide to follow. Cut branches and other tracks indicate it's a small group.
6 poacher, around 6 poacher, yes.
Knowing the area as well as they do, the rangers try to estimate which way the poachers have gone. It's not long before they find their camp. Trash is littered everywhere. Evidence of drug use, an improvised meth pipe.
We've been following a trail for the last kilometre or so. The rangers think it's just a couple of days old. There are tyre marks where the logs have been taken out on improvised transporters. We've just found this camp. Now, from the evidence of the campsite, the rangers think there are about 20 people here, and they think they could be very close.
The trail is now easy to follow. Trees have been felled to make it easier for the poachers to get through. Vast trunks of redwood have obviously been moved along these tracks. Then we find the logging site itself. Hacked up stumps, smoothly sawed planks, an open scar in the jungle's green canopy. These were trees that had been here for centuries, cut down in less than an hour. The rangers log the size of the trees and grid locations. Poachers will often return to a site to take what they couldn't carry, and if there are arrests, this is vital information in securing convictions.
จะแบ่งกันทำงานกันเป็นทีมพวกขึ้นมาคนก็จะเป็นพวกชาวบ้านที่เขาจ้างขึ้นมาก็จะมีคนนำพวกนี้ก็จะมีกลุ่มเขาเรียกว่ากลุ่มป้องกันกลุ่มระวังจะมีอาวุธ
All the way now, evidence the poachers are very close. The bones from an endangered animal they've killed as meat. Rice, less than a day old. More campsites, but the rangers are careful here. The red rags often indicate booby traps and grenades have been set nearby. Then suddenly the rangers tell us to take cover. The scouts at the front have seen something. We wait in cover, not sure what's happening. Then the scouts come back down the path, carrying water containers and some bowls. Suspected loggers had just made a lucky escape.
เมื่อกี้เราเดินเข้าไปนะครับเราไปดูไม้ขอนเก่าครับที่เป็นการเลื่อยไปแล้วจากนี้พอสำรวจลงไปมีผู้ต้องสงสัยครับกำลังเดินขึ้นมาแล้วเห็นเราแบกน้ำ แล้วทิ้งน้ำแล้วก็วิ่งหนีเราไปครับไล่ไม่ทันครับ
The rangers keep the water for themselves. There are no streams in this area and they have to move on or risk dehydration. But close as we are, the trail is about to go cold. A tropical rainstorm is moving in fast and any hopes of tracking the loggers are quickly washed away. The rangers decide to get out. In this weather, they're as likely to be ambushed as they are to catch the poachers. We make our way off the plateau to the farmland below. At a base camp nearby, there's a hot drink and cover from the beating rain. It's a huge disappointment not to have caught the loggers they were tracking, but spirits are still high. Team leader Noy is already planning to head back in, but he's also disturbed. The rangers may now be armed and trained, but they're still vastly outnumbered.
จากสิ่งที่เห็นนี้อันดับแรกกำลังเราน้อยมากเปรียบเทียบกับแคมป์ที่เราเดินผ่านมาสำหรับเจ้าหน้าที่ที่ลาดตระเวนอยู่
These men are dedicated to protecting the rosewood trees that remain in Thailand's forests. But prices for the rich red timber of the rosewood continues to rise, and it's a price that will cost some of these men their lives.
Coming up next on Assignment Asia, Myanmar's lethal legacy, that to this day continues to kill and maim. The stories on our programme this week focus on conflict. And in Myanmar, nearly 6 decades of internal fighting are coming to a close, with the government signing ceasefire deals with more than 25 rebel groups. The problem is, dozens of civilians continue to be maimed or even killed each year. As my colleague Martin Lowe reports from the Thai town of Mesod, the reason is buried in the ground.
Rebel soldiers find an abandoned Myanmar government position and approach with caution. They're concerned about landmines, weapons designed to kill and maim. He doesn't know it yet, but for this young fighter, it'll be his last patrol. Because today, one landmine does its job. The soldier we saw has lost a foot. He'll never walk easily again. Another is badly wounded. This is an area littered with mines planted by both the military and the rebels. And in the last dozen years, they've killed or maimed some 3,000 men, women and children. People like Tin Tun, a farmer from Myanmar's Karen state. For 2 years he struggled with a replacement formed from a plastic pipe. But now he's being made a prosthetic limb at this clinic just across the border in Thailand.
I went into the forest to chop firewood. Then I got thirsty, so I stopped and went to fetch the water. It was a hot day. I sat under a tree and it exploded.
Tin Tun's wound, though old, was not clean, so first it had to be treated at the clinic's trauma unit. Tin Tun clearly remembers the moments after the explosion. He knows he's fortunate to have survived.
I was with my 3 brothers at the time, so I sent them to the army camp. There were monks and workers there, and also 10 carts for carrying wood. Luckily, one of the carts wasn't in use, so the soldiers let us use it to carry me to the hospital.
The mines are the legacy of 60 years of fighting between the government forces of Myanmar and rebel groups seeking independence. In recent months, a new era's begun, and the guns are now silent. But the unmarked landmines remain, and the dying and the maiming goes on. It's thought that just inside Myanmar, as much as 70% of the 2,000-kilometre-long border with Thailand has been sown with mines. The rebel groups claimed their communities were being repressed by the government, which led to decades of armed conflict. But because Myanmar's borders were closed, exactly what happened is still unknown to the rest of the world. Officially, there's now a ceasefire, but at times it fractures. With little medical care in Myanmar, many landmine victims are brought illegally across the border to Thailand. Life-saving surgery is carried out at the public hospital in the border town of Mae Sot, but with no money to pay for further treatment, the injured are then brought to this free clinic, where help is offered to everyone who can walk or be carried through its doors. It's run by Dr. Cynthia. Her name is known throughout Myanmar, though she's not been there for 20 years. A refugee herself, she walked for 10 days and nights to escape the fighting in 1988, carrying only a bag of basic medical tools on her shoulder. She expected to stay in Thailand for 3 months. She's still here.
Yeah, mostly they got injured while they are working in the farms, or some of them they are working as a soldier. So, but 90% or maybe mostly are people who are working the civilian population.
Dr. Cynthia has help. Saw More Care runs the workshop at the clinic, which makes prosthetics for those who've lost limbs. He himself is a landmine survivor.
I'm an ex-soldier, right? So when we are fighting with the military junta, so unfortunately, so when you rush to their outpost, so I step on the landmine.
Smuggled into Thailand for treatment, Saw More Care soon recovered physically, but felt less of a man without a leg. For him, the answer was working to help other victims. There's no shortage of patients here. This board shows the workload. 25 cases in a month, almost one a day. 80% are the victims of landmines. Myanmar's now moving away from military rule, but the casualties continue, and more than half are civilians. In 2011, 84 people were killed, twice the figure of the year before.
When you lose parts of your body, you see, normally people feel that, so you have to rely on other people or something like that. So whenever they came here, so at the beginning, so they feel like upset, unhappy. But when I talk to them, so I encourage them, right, not to get up. So, and I promise and I give you guarantees, we are going to make a very good one for you, and you can regain your life like before. So that's why, so whenever they come back to pay their processes, I ask them, how do you feel? Oh, say, no, I have a lot of confidence.
It's hoped soon operations to clear the landmines can begin. Humanitarian organisations say they're ready to do the work, but first they need consent from all sides. For the victims, amputation is only the first step. The process of rehabilitation is long, both psychologically and physically. But Tin Tun knows he's among the fortunate, and after 2 weeks here at the clinic, he'll be able to go home and walk with his family as he did before. For Assignment Asia, I'm Martin Lowe on the Thai-Myanmar border.
There are 450,000 Myanmar refugees and internally displaced people, but the United Nations won't tell them to go home until they know the landmines have all been cleared. The problem is, nobody knows exactly where the landmines have been buried. When we come back,
two fathers on opposite ends of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict become bonded by unbearable loss.
Culture Express. See the world in color.
So how do you deal with the loss of a child? It's something no parent ever wants to experience, but in areas of armed conflict, it's a reality for far too many. Two doctors, one Israeli, one Palestinian, are finding the best way to deal with the loss of their daughters is to speak out together, and this is their story.
Hi.
Hi.
Bob.
I'm Bob, yes.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm Rami. This is Basar.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I'm so glad you guys are here. I've talked to in the literature I've read that it's about not continuing with retribution, but seeking reconciliation. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. They're here to hear you speak, not me. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My name is Rami El-Hanan. I am a Jew. I'm an Israeli. And before anything else, I am a human being. At first, when you hear about the explosion, you keep hoping that maybe this time this finger will not turn towards you. Then, gradually, you find yourself running in the streets, trying to find her. She disappeared. You find yourself running from hospital to hospital, from police station to police station, many long and frustrating hours until eventually, very, very later that night, you find yourself in the morgue. And this finger is stuck right between your eyes, and you see this sight which you will never ever be able to forget for the rest of your life. When someone kills your 14 years old little girl, you are so angry and you want to get even. And this is natural, and this is human. This is the way most people choose the path of revenge and retaliation.
It's not easy to be a Palestinian. You have no hope. You don't know why you born occupied. Unfortunately, if you lived here, no one can protect himself and even his kids. And this is the worst. You cannot protect your family and yourself. In the 16th of January 2007, an Israeli border police shot and killed my 10-year-old daughter, Abir, in front of her school, in her head, from the back, from a distance of 20 meters. She was with her sister and two other girls, 9:30 in the morning, after they finished their examination in mathematics. It's unbelievable. It was no war. No demonstrations. It's not in Gaza.
This is it. This is the place. 5 people died here. Remember her 24 hours a day, 60 seconds of every minute. It never leaves you for 1 second. Try to imagine that someone cuts off your hand, and it's a wound that never heals. It's always bleeding.
Abir and her sister and 2 friends, with girls, they go outside this gate, they cross the street, and after 20 meters, it was 1 shot from the jeep, from the back, and this shot was a rubber bullet in Abir's head from the back, and she fell down. I believe this soldier, he's a sniper. Maybe he said to his colleague, let me see if I'm a good sniper or not, in the worst case. Yeah.
Well, this is Madar. This is the last photo, just a few days before. And when she cut her hair like this, she had a beautiful long hair, and she knew I would kill her for it. And she put her head through the door and said, "How do I look?" There is enormous river of blood between these two peoples, a lot of hatred and oceans of emotion. And I'm not fooling myself. It's not by me standing up the hill and say, let's make peace, peace will happen. But what I can do is put cracks in the wall of hatred and fear.
I like this photo because she's still alive. She don't know that she will face this destiny. They are all our children. They have nothing to do with this conflict. We need just to protect them and start to raise them up in a different way, to discover their own humanity early, not after or before they are going to lose their life. You will never get back your heart, your daughter. That's it. You need to believe that it's over. You need to know how to use your pain. It's a huge pain, and it's forever. Whatever happened, peace, another war, you kill the killer. Your pain is your pain. But we decide to use our pain in a different way.
We go around the country, we go around the world, we go from ear to ear, we go from heart to heart. And we tell people that our blood is exactly the same color. Our pain is exactly the same pain, and our tears are just as bitter. And if we who paid the highest price possible, if we can talk to one another, then anyone can, and anyone should. Thank you for listening.
Two fathers making their grief work for good. And you can find out more about that story and everything else on today's program at our website, assignmentasia.com. You can also comment on the stories and contribute ideas for future editions of the show. That's all we have time for this week. I'm Tony Cheng. Thanks for watching, and join us again on Assignment Asia.